All right, welcome on in everyone to First CSP for another episode of the Sunday Special, where we're able to highlight things that are first CSP adjacent or other areas of our collection that might be of interest. Today we actually have a first of sorts, so let's head on over to the patch table and take a look at this Mount Baker area P-2 with its orange border, pale blue sky, orange fleur-de-lis, orange letters, and is the photo process of the Mount Baker, I would assume. This was the first sublimated patch, council shoulder patch that was ever offered. So in general, council shoulder patches are classified for collecting by their manufacture style. What we are most used to seeing, I'll take this off here for a moment, is either twill patches, like this Mobile Area T1A, where you can see the base fabric to which the embroidery is applied. That would be classified as a T or twill patch. Or you have the patch completely embroidered, and this is known as an S um, classification because it is solidly embroidered. So the overwhelming majority of council shoulder patches are going to be T or S classifications. And then the number that follows is going to be the issue in which that was ordered. So this was the first issue for Mobile's council. So this is the T1. It is a twill 1. Now this had several variants. So this is a 1A. And this is solidly embroidered. So this is an S patch. This was the second that was issued. There were several variants here. This happens to be an S2B. But the number just tells you what order it came for council shoulder patches for that council, and the first letter is designating the essentially style of manufacture. So we get a lot of T's, a lot of S's. That is the overwhelming majority of CSPs that have been produced. They're going to be those two styles of manufacture. This was the first one listed as a P, and it essentially set the designation for the entire class. Uh, Taking a look at the back here real quick, see our little sticker there for P2. The backing here, I would say, is cardboard, potentially. It does not feel like plastic. I would say that it's possibly cardboard, which goes a little bit into why this particular patch was created, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But the P designation came from the fact that this was the first one produced. So when collecting guide authors had to determine how to classify this manufacturer style, they said, well, that's a photo of the mountain, so this is a P style patch. What it referred to essentially was that this is a sublimated patch. And you couldn't use S because S is already used for solidly embroidered. So they went with P because this happened to be a photo. There have been sublimated patches, council shoulder patches that have existed since. There is a first that we'll see a little bit later on the channel at some point for Spirit of Adventure. So that the manufacturer style has persisted, and actually most have commented sublimation has greatly improved and is actually a lot more widely available nowadays than it probably was back then. That's why I chose to wear my Royals Hello Kitty hoodie. This is fully sublimated. This is not a screen print over the top. This is sublimated into the fabric, and they hold up pretty well nowadays. Now, talking a bit about why this was produced, I was asking around in some collecting groups online, and one of the scouters who was a youth during the time that this was produced in the early 80s said that actually this was an attempt by the council to produce a lower cost CSP. At the time in the area, the major industries were fishing and logging, and both actually had hard times in the early 80s. So the Mount Baker Area Council looked to this production method as a cheaper alternative Unfortunately, it was not very successful because the durability apparently of these once put on a uniform and going through the wash, you know, scouting is an outdoor adventure and sometimes a rougher one on that as far as textiles and fabrics. And these just did not hold up. They said they all but almost disintegrated in the wash after just a couple of times. And again, looking at the backing being potentially cardboard, I could see this is super thin compared to, say, like embroidered or even twill patches. I could see that this would potentially not be very durable. Conversely, sublimated manufacture today, I believe, is a more expensive option than traditional embroidery because the manufacturing has gotten so much better. And as I've said, this is a modern sublimation. My hoodie I'm wearing in this video, and this holds up to the wash. You're not going to have any issues as far as color fade and stuff. Some of that's improvement in ink dyes and things, all kinds of things since the 1980s that have changed as far as manufacturing has gone. But we wanted to bring this one to you today because it is a first of sorts. We love firsts on this channel. It is the first sublimated council shoulder patch that existed. It is the Mount Baker area P-2, and the P classification came from the fact that this was a photo on the Mount Baker area council, but subsequent sublimated council shoulder patches do follow that P designation. So I hope you have found that interesting. If you have more to add to the story or the comments or know more about manufacturing of CSPs, that is certainly not an area of expertise for me. I'm just a collector with my father. So I'm sure a lot of you have been in positions with your council to have patches produced. If you have more on that that you'd like to add in the comments below, please feel free. We'll be back again tomorrow with another brand new episode of First CSP, and we hope to see you then. But until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your day.